This fall, the four networks are introducing 34 new series, millions of dollars, not to mention careers are riding on.
Well, Phil, this is the 90s, man.
Man, it's the 90s. It's hammer time.
This is the 90s, the 1990s in point of fact.
Does your girlfriend have a girlfriend?
Hey, it's the 90s.
The 1990s. This decade would be all that and a bag of chips.
We're not talking brain cells here. We're talking taste buds.
Where the planet would see the rise of the World Wide Web.
Plane tickets are ordered. Now, let's look up dinosaurs.
Civil unrest in the States, and a hairstyle called the Rachel dominate the landscape. Today, we're going to give you the 411 about the news, culture, sports, and entertainment, and all that was weird in the 90s.
Don't touch that dial.
This is Timeline. Hang on to your plaid, because we're starting at the beginning with the year 1990. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what your favorite 90s expression was. Okay, baby, let's go back.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm dying for a Pepsi.
Coming out of the 80s, the world was changing. Communism was crumbling, the Cold War was thawing, and materialism had taken root in our culture. Moving into the 90s, how would this decade be defined? In the year ahead, we would see one of the biggest upsets in sports history, a whale of a good time, and a stage being set for war.
5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined.
This is 1990.
Aren't you going to say hello?
The year started off great for David N. Dinkins, who became the first black mayor of New York City, who was sworn in on January 1st. Dinkins' tenure, however, was marred with unparalleled levels of crime and a massive budget deficit. Most commonly, he's remembered for failing to respond to the race riot in August of 1991, now dubbed the Crown Heights crisis. At the time, tensions were high between blacks and Jews in Brooklyn. A brutal attack on Orthodox Jews sparked a full-blown riot. On January 1st, 1990, the UK's ITV aired the pilot of a new show called Mr. Bean. Played by Rowan Atkinson, the character made his debut at the Montreal Comedy Festival Just for Laughs in 1987, and was so well received the series was planned. The pilot was watched by almost 14 million people, launching a series that became a hit in the UK and later in the US. 2 days later, after holding up in the Vatican Embassy in Panama City for 10 days, dictator Manuel Noriega surrendered to the United States. American forces surrounded the location, blasted music, and flew helicopters overhead. Eventually, the US and the Vatican reached an agreement, and Noriega surrendered. The Fox network launched in 1986. But it would take until January 13th, 1990, for one of its stars to be invited to host Saturday Night Live.
Over the past year, both this show and Married with Children have come under attack from certain groups for crossing the boundaries of good taste.
That star was Ed O'Neill, who played shoe salesman Al Bundy on the raunchy sitcom Married with Children.
You must learn to treat all people the same.
Even midgets?
If you're too young to remember a time before YouTube, you're probably more familiar with O'Neill as family patriarch Jay Pritchett on the hit sitcom Modern Family. After being spun off from the Tracy Ullman Show, The Simpsons appeared in a Christmas special which aired in December of 1989. And on January 14th, 1990, they finally got their own ongoing series, which kicked off with the episode Bart the Genius. The story, which finds Bart scamming his way into a school for smart kids, would launch the iconic animated sitcom, which is now in its 36th season. Coming back to the States, we go to Washington, D.C., where Mayor Marion Barry was arrested during an FBI sting operation and caught smoking the crack on January 18th. In a surprising twist, after serving his 6-month sentence, Barry was re-elected mayor, serving from 1995 to 99.
Damn mayor on crack.
In late January, we head to the New Orleans Superdome, where during Super Bowl 24, the San Francisco 49ers demolished Mule-Mouth John Elway and the Denver Broncos 55-10. Quarterback Joe Montana won his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. 3 days later, the Soviet Union saw its first McDonald's restaurant open in Moscow. Those golden arches attracted long lines of hungry Russians, who waited as long as 6 hours for 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, plus fries and a Coke.
I think the reaction from the Soviets is going to be exceptional. I think they're going to just say, thank you, thanks McDonald's, thanks for coming here.
One journalist noted the level of Russian enthusiasm was the expression of America's rationalism and pragmatism toward food. That's one way of looking at it.
McDonald's, food, folks, and fun.
On February 11th, the leader of the movement to end South African apartheid, Nelson Mandela, was released from prison after spending 27 years incarcerated.
I tell you, feeling the thrill of just realizing that he's going to be out.
I feel free today. It's going to change the country a lot.
Mandela had been sent to prison on trumped-up charges of treason and sabotage. Flash forward 4 years, where on May 10th, Mandela would be elected as president of South Africa and serve until 1999.
The moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come.
Back to 1990, and we go to the Tokyo Dome in Japan, where on the same day as Mandela's release, the undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, was defeated. Iron Mike was knocked down and out by the 42-1 underdog Buster Douglas in the 10th round of the bout. The next day, on February 12th, rapper, dancer, and iconic Genie Pants wearer MC Hammer released his album, Please Hammer, Don't Hurt 'Em. The album stayed on the Billboard 200 for 21 weeks straight and propelled MC into superstardom thanks to his juggernaut single, You Can't Touch This. Hammer became so popular that a year and a half later he got his very own cartoon, Hammerman, which debuted on September 7th, 1991. Your very own cartoon. Now that's making it.
It's hammer time.
February 17th was huge for Aerosmith for two reasons. It was the first time they were ever invited to be musical guests on Saturday Night Live, and it was the night they would appear on the Mike Myers sketch, Wayne's World.
Are those really your lips, or are they lip implants like Barbara Hershey had in the movie Beaches?
They mine, man.
Vincent lips!
The appearance was such a hit, Aerosmith would return to headline the Waynestock concert that closes the film Wayne's World 2. Back to 1990, we go to the courts, where on February 27th, the case of Washington versus Harper saw an inmate in Washington state sue the prison system for involuntary medication, specifically around the inmate's antipsychotic medication. The court found that Harper was a danger to either himself or his fellow inmates, and the prison was well within its rights to administer antipsychotic medicine against the will of the individual involved.
By storm. You can get one of your favorite heroes on a half shell every time you buy a Kids Club meal. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle badges for a limited time. Only at Burger King.
Cowabunga, dude.
Sir, we have been sabotaged.
I'm telling you, he wants to defect.
Let's shake the man loose.
Right full rudder. Cancel on Crazy Island.
Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin, The Hunt for Red October.
On March 24th, Elf, the sitcom about an American family living with an alien life form, aired its 4th season finale.
To Elf, if you ever drop in again, please use the front door. Love the Tanners.
The episode ended on a cliffhanger which found Elf being discovered and surrounded by agents of the U.S. government. But the series was abruptly canceled, leaving audiences with one of TV's most notorious unresolved cliffhangers. Luckily for fans, that cliffhanger would finally be resolved in Project Elf, a TV movie that aired on February 17, 1996.
Well, I'd like a nice, big, fat calico, medium rare.
Are you some kind of sicko?
In the movie, Elf squares off with an evil army colonel and is ultimately made an official ambassador to Earth. Sadly, however, none of the actors who played Elf's family on the original series returned.
WrestleMania, the ultimate challenge, live at Sky Dome in Toronto, Sunday afternoon, April 1 at 4 p.m.
On April 1st, the 6th annual WrestleMania was broadcast on pay-per-view from the Sky Dome in Toronto. The flagship WWF event found heavyweight champ Hulk Hogan squaring off against Intercontinental champ The Ultimate Warrior in a winner-take-all event. That winner would turn out to be The Ultimate Warrior, who walked away with both titles. And on April 8th, TV drama would be changed forever when David Lynch's Twin Peaks debuted on ABC. The serialized mystery show, which followed a murder investigation in the eponymous fictional northwestern town, revolutionized the genre and ran for 2 seasons, followed by the theatrical film Fire Walk With Me, and a series reboot in 2017 that featured most of the original cast. 35 years later, on January 15, 2025, Lynch would pass away at the age of 78. The revered director of films like The Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, and Wild at Heart had been suffering from emphysema, brought on by smoking cigarettes, a habit he claimed to have acquired at just 8 years old. On April 10th, animal rights activists had a win when they successfully convinced canned tuna brands not to buy fish caught from companies that use nets which harm dolphins. The turning point was when Heinz, who was the globe's foremost tuna supplier, decided to stop buying any tuna caught using purse fishing net methods. April 15th was a great day for comedy because it's the day In Living Color debuted on Fox. Led by Keenan Ivory Wayans, the mostly African-American sketch comedy series, which featured Damon, Kim, Sean, and Marlon Wayans, would briefly give Saturday Night Live a run for its money.
Who are you?
I am the Minister Louis Farrakhan.
While also launching the careers of cast members like David Alan Grier and Jim Carrey.
You're changing the water in this here fish tank. And you accidentally fill it with gasoline, like so. The janitor comes in, there's a power outage, he lights himself a match, and... oh! He's cooking fish sticks!
In late April, the Hubble telescope was launched into space aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery. After its launch, it was discovered that the telescope's primary mirror had an aberration that affected its ability to produce clear and accurate images, making the poor Hubble a late-night talk show punchline.
Have you heard about the problems with the Hubble Space Telescope? They called the NASA official repairman to fix it, and he said he'll be up there sometime in the 21st century between noon and 5.
Since being fixed, the Hubble has helped revolutionize astronomy, giving in-depth looks at distant stars, planets, and galaxies, and giving scientists a better understanding of black holes. So, on May 12th, stand-up comic Andrew Dice Clay guest-hosted Saturday Night Live. The appearance from the controversial comedian, who played a misogynistic and racist character, drew protests, including from SNL cast members like Nora Dunn, who refused to appear on the broadcast. It also caused the scheduled musical guest, Sinead O'Connor, to back out of the show. Just 2 months later, the Dice Man would shock audiences by showing off his sensitive side on the Arsenio Hall Show. While promoting his movie, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, Clay broke down in tears over criticism that his routine was racist and sexist by claiming it was all just a joke.
And anybody that doesn't like it can wipe their ass with whatever they say about me.
The appearance, however, did not do much for his movie, which bombed. Some sad news as we head into mid-May. The man behind the Muppets, Jim Henson, died at the age of 53.
He's taught me so much just by being the person who he is.
Henson single-handedly ushered in a new golden age of puppets, creating many of his iconic characters on Sam and Friends in 1955, which would then later be reborn as The Muppet Show almost 20 years later. Besides being the hand behind Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy, Henson also helped create puppets for The Dark Crystal, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Farscape, and Labyrinth. On the same day, beloved Rat Pack member Sammy Davis Jr. passed away. The actor, singer, and comedian died while heavily in debt to the IRS. His estate was divided up and had various legal battles surrounding it, even after the death of his wife, who passed in 2009. A little-known fact about Sammy was that towards the back half of his life, he converted from Judaism to Satanism. The Mr. Bojangles crooner hosted many interesting parties, satanic rituals, and pagan sacrifices. May 17th was a tough day for Kelsey Grammer. The Cheers star, known for playing Frasier Crane, was sentenced to 30 days in jail for driving while intoxicated in Van Nuys, California. He would serve just 14 days of that sentence, but later in the year he would be sentenced to 90 days of house arrest in connection with a 1988 charge of possession of cocaine. Sticking with the music, Madonna's Vogue topped the charts by reaching #1 on the US Hot 100 on May 19th and stayed there for 3 consecutive weeks. The music video for Vogue was directed by a then-budding David Fincher, who we may hear from later on in the decade.
What's in 1995? What's in 1995?
In late May, Colombian elections were marred by violent protests and riots after Cesar Gaviria won the presidency. Luis Carlos Galán, the Colombian presidential candidate, had been shot and killed while campaigning south of Bogotá. He was so far ahead in the polls for the presidential elections that he was virtually assured of victory. His campaign manager, Cesar Gaviria, ran in his place after the attack and was elected president. Immediately after Galán's assassination, the president at the time, Virgilio Barco, retaliated by reinstating extraditions.
Have you brought any fruits or vegetables onto the planet?
2 weeks.
Excuse me?
Catch!
Get ready for a surprise!
A notable first, the Thanatron, the machine Jack Kevorkian used for assisted suicides, was used for the first time on June 4th. Janet Adkins of Portland, Oregon, became the first person to use the Thanatron.
Her decision that had been made some time ago, the boys were all familiar with it, and we all knew what she wanted to do.
Kevorkian and the Thanatron would eventually be enlisted by 129 other people to end their own lives. 6 days later, federal district judge Jose Gonzalez ruled that Two Live Crew's album, As Nasty as They Wanna Be, was obscene, and the album was ruled illegal to perform in multiple Florida counties. With hits like Me So Horny and Dirty Nursery Rhymes, the group quickly gained nationwide recognition for their profanity and explicit lyrics. Crew's Fresh Kid Ice and Amazing V were arrested by the police during a performance at, of all places, a local Florida strip club after the ruling. The case was taken to trial, where the crew would eventually be acquitted. Two Live Crew walked so Megan Thee Stallion could run. Sticking with the justice system, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld by a 6-3 vote police DUI checkpoints on June 14th. In the decision, written by Chief Justice William Rehnquist, the court rejected assertions that DUI checkpoints violated the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizure.
Daddy, I can do it.
What's a meal I hate to miss?
Kibbles and bits and bits and bits.
Variety I must insist.
Kibbles and bits and bits and bits.
Crunchy,
Chewy,
falling,
chow down. Kibbles and bits and bits and bits.
We now go to the Middle East, where on June 21st, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake devastated Iran. An estimated 50,000 Iranians perished, and over 400,000 people were left homeless from the quake, which spanned from 7.3 to 7.7 on the Richter scale. Then on July 5th, the sitcom Blossom, starring the future Big Bang Theory star Mayim Bialik and teen heartthrob Joey Lawrence, debuted on NBC. The pilot, which featured Bialik as Blossom Russo, a teenager who lived with her father and two elder brothers, was well received and would debut as a regular series on January 3rd, 1991. Heading into July, we go to Italy. Buongiorno. Where West Germany, yes, West Germany was still around at the time, won the FIFA World Cup, defeating Argentina 1-0. This was the third World Cup title for West Germany. And on July 12th, Alaska got a new doctor when Northern Exposure debuted on CBS. The quirky drama followed Joel Fleischman, a Jewish MD from New York who found himself paying for his medical school debt by working it off in the tiny fictional town of Sicily, located deep in the northern wilderness. The series, which would be showered with critical acclaim and awards, became a major hit and ran 6 seasons.
You ain't got a body no more, son. It's all up here now. You want to move something, you got to move it with your mind. I did it. Way to go.
Johnny Depp got his big break in 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, but he cemented his celebrity status by starring as Officer Tom Hansen on the Fox police procedural 21 Jump Street. The show followed a squad of undercover cops investigating crimes in teen-heavy settings like high schools. It became a major hit, but on July 16th, Depp made his final appearance on the series. He would, however, very briefly reprise the character in the 2012 21 Jump Street movie.
You want to wear a fake nose on your head for like months on end? Worst things in the world.
Roseanne Barr is famous for a lot of things, but her singing voice isn't one of them. That's why it struck many as a strange choice when she was invited to sing the national anthem at the Reds-Padres game of July 25th. Barr's screeching rendition, which ended with her spitting on the pitcher's mound, drew swift reactions from the crowd. And surprising no one, she was subsequently vilified for it in the press.
Several of the Padres said they thought her performance was a complete disgrace.
Of August would start off a touch fresher, with the city of San Luis Obispo, California, adopting the first legislation to ban smoking in bars. Tobacco giant R.J. Reynolds fumigated local residents with pamphlets urging them to call their council members, but to no avail. By July of 2018, nearly every state adopted similar laws, with only 12 states: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming, who still live in flavor country. 6 days later, after invading Kuwait, the Iraqi government proclaimed that they had annexed the country. In a statement issued from Saddam Hussein's ruling council, they insisted their lack of fear from American military forces, despite the annexation, proclaiming, "All the fleets and squadrons of aircraft will not shake a single palm frond in Iraq." We'll see how well that statement holds going into 1991.
Clear! No, wait!
Oh my God.
We fucking got him! Come on, Nelson, pick up the beat.
Easy, easy, easy.
Nelson, pick up the beat, pick up the beat, pick up the beat.
In 1990, rapper Will Smith was in trouble with the IRS and desperately needed money. To right the ship, he decided to sign on to play the title character in the NBC sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
These are my partners in the law firm of Firth, Wind & Meyer.
Hey, Earth, Wind & Fire, when's your next album coming out?
The show debuted on September 10th, and despite the fact he had no prior acting experience, it became a massive hit. The series would run 6 seasons, and Smith would go on to star in a series of hit movies.
What's up, Will? Oh, what happened to your Whitney Houston cutout? He fell apart in the shower.
And just 3 days later, on September 13th, Law & Order debuted on NBC. Though ripped from the headlines, stories would quickly make the show TV's definitive police procedural.
You see a guy with a birthmark on his face?
The name of the game is finding fame. Silk is a name, and he's to blame.
Silky.
The series, now in its 26th season, became one of the biggest franchises in history, with no less than 6 separate spin-offs. On September 14th, Seattle Mariners Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. made history by becoming the first father-son duo to hit back-to-back home runs against the California Angels.
And he hits one well to left center field. Back-to-back home runs.
So you got a flat? What the fuck? You better pull over and see.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
In late September, East and West Germany overwhelmingly voted in favor of reuniting the two countries, which had been separated since Germany's unconditional surrender in 1945. The measure passed with a vote of 442 in favor and 47 against. When it comes to documentaries, Ken Burns is about as legendary as they come. And while his career started way back in 1981, his big break came on September 23rd, when his 11-hour miniseries, The Civil War, debuted on PBS. Among other things, the groundbreaking series would give the world its first look at the Ken Burns effect, a way of panning and zooming the camera over still images that came to dominate the documentary filmmaking of the era. Have you ever been watching a police procedural and wished it had musical numbers in it? Well, if so, you may have loved Cop Rock. Debuting on ABC on September 24th, the series, produced by LA Law's Stephen Bochco, turned the LAPD into a musical performance troupe worthy of Broadway.
I'm the baby merchant. Tots are up.
He's guilty, Judge, he's guilty. You could see it in his eyes.
If you don't hook people in 30 seconds, you know you're dead in the water.
The show was a critical and commercial failure and was quickly canceled. Then, on October 4th, Fox changed teen drama television forever when it broadcast the debut of Beverly Hills 90210. In addition to spawning a slew of spin-offs, the trend-setting teen soap would run 10 seasons and launch the careers of Jason Priestley, Shannon Doherty, Jenny Garth, Brian Austin Green, Tori Spelling, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, and Luke Perry.
I lent you my girlfriend. You made a move on her.
You made a move on Kelly?
Nothing happened. Then you send your little sex freak over to my house trying to look for some kind of handout.
It was temporary insanity, all right? I wasn't thinking with my head.
You weren't thinking at all.
Hold on a second. Let's back up to the part about the sex freak.
Humphrey the Humpback Whale may not be as popular as Free Willy, but on October 24th, he became a celebrity in his own right.
I saw his tail come up out of the water. It was right past the Golden Gate Bridge.
During his long seasonal migration from Mexico to Alaska, Humphrey decided to take a pit stop in the San Francisco Bay. Humphrey stayed for 3 days and then was lured back on his way by the Marine Mammal Center, who played the smooth, jazzy sounds of other humpback whales.
Red Lobster.
Tonight, 30 shrimp, just $8.95.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
And kids get shrimp, a complete meal, just $1.95.
We go to Saudi Arabia, where on November 6th, a group of women protesters drove through the streets of Riyadh as an act of defiance to the government ban on women driving cars. Unfortunately, this act of civil disobedience cost them deeply. The women were arrested, removed from their jobs, and banned from traveling. Subsequently, the Interior Minister, Prince Naif bin Abdulaziz, officially banned women from operating motorized vehicles. This stayed law until 2017, when King Salman announced an order allowing women to drive. Driver's licenses for women were issued the following year. In mid-November, Bret Easton Ellis's book, American Psycho, was supposed to be published by Simon & Schuster, but was pulled over aesthetic differences after a public outcry that the book was deemed too violent. The book would eventually be picked up by Vintage Books and would go on to sell over 1 million copies. Nearly 10 years later, the movie American Psycho, starring Christian Bale, made its debut.
Hey, Paul!
Speaking of psychos,
Kevin!
Home Alone.
I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. I am going to get home to my son.
Yes!
hot off the success of the film Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee's Playhouse debuted in 1986 and became a huge hit. But by 1990, star Paul Reubens felt burnt out playing the character and informed CBS he would be ending the series to take a sabbatical. The final episode aired November 17th, just 8 months before Reubens would be arrested for indecently exposing himself while watching a film at a porno theater in Florida. And on November 18th, ABC would air the first episode of a two-part adaptation of Stephen King's It. The Emmy-winning miniseries would star well-known actors like John Ritter and Harry Anderson, and would feature Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. Despite the acclaim the TV version received, Hollywood would return to the well in 2017, when it released the first half of a two-part theatrical film series based once again on King's It novel. Directed by Andy Muschietti, the film would feature Finn Wolfhard, Jaden Martell, and Sophia Lillis. And this time, Pennywise's clown shoes would be filled by Bill Skarsgård. Coming back to literature, a sad passing as acclaimed children's book author Roald Dahl died on November 23rd. Author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, BFG, and countless others, Dahl's books worldwide have sold over 250 million copies. And fun fact, Roald was also the screenwriter of the James Bond film You Only Live Twice. November 26th, Fox broadcast the first ever Billboard Music Awards. Sponsored by the music industry publication Billboard, the awards differed from similar shows like the Grammy Awards because they were given out based on album and song sales, radio airplay, and touring success, rather than being based on a vote. They continue to be awarded every year to this very day.
You dirty bird. How could you? Misery Chastain cannot be dead.
Misery Spirit is still alive.
I don't want her, Smith! I want her! And you murdered her!
In the landmark case of Cruzan versus Director, Missouri Department of Health, Nancy Beth Cruzan, who was in a persistent vegetative state, was being kept alive by a life support system. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court allowed Nancy's parents the right to terminate the use of her feeding tubes that were administering her nutrition and hydration. Just 3 days before Christmas, Lech Walesa took the oath of office as Poland's first popularly elected president. Previous to Walesa, Ryszard Kaczorowski had ended his term by living in exile in London. Walesa, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, would go on to serve as president from 1990 to 1995. Just after Christmas, the U.S. Census was released, and America was getting pretty big, with a grand total of 249.6 million people. And that is how 1990 ended. 1999 was just days away, and America would see itself on the precipice of war. Racial tensions would boil over in the City of Angels, and we would find out what goes well with fava beans and a nice Chianti. But that is for next year. Coming soon, 1991.
Let me know how it turns out, guys.
So what do you think? What was your fondest memory of 1990? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other Weird History Timeline videos.